UV unwrapping and texture mapping. In this video you will understand an image texture replaces the colour of a material. You'll learn how to unwrap part of a mesh and apply the texture to it. So let's hop straight on over into Blender. Right, so over in Blender, the first thing I'm going to do is just bring up the node editor here. Right, so on the left hand side of this node editor we're going to introduce a texture. So I'm going to go Add and go to Texture, and we want an image texture. You could also go Shift A and search for image texture, of course go to Texture and Image Texture. I'm just going to pop that there, and I'm going to link straight away the colour to colour and the colour down here as well. So that means that the image texture is going to control the colour of these two shaders. Now it would be nice to see if what's actually going on. Over here on the Materials tab you can see it's gone this bright magenta, this bright pink. And generally when no texture is assigned, that's the colour it goes. So let's bring this back down a little here, so you can still see the node editor. I'm going to switch to the 3D view and change it to rendered mode so I can just see what's going on. Okay, brilliant. So we've got ourselves a pink eye. Now you may want that type of eye, but I actually want to apply my image to it. So I'm going to go to Open. I'm going to find the iris I made earlier, or in fact we made earlier, and open up your one. Open image here, and it goes black. So of course the first question is, well, why isn't it applied? It's not going to work yet because we haven't mapped it. So let's go ahead and do that now. So I'm going to pull down this area over on the left. I'm happy with the outliner itself, so I'm going to go down here and switch this to the image editor, UV and image editor. Excellent. And in here I'm also going to open up our iris. So that's loaded up there. Now the final thing to do is select what we want to be mapped to this image whilst it's open. So over in the 3D editor window, I'm going to switch back to solid mode. No, changed my mind. Probably material, no, texture. Yes, we can actually see it here. Okay, so I need these three rings here selected. So I'm going to go back to solid mode. I'm using in face select, I'm going to use Alt and Shift because I want extra rings selected. There we go. So these face loops have been selected. Now I need to go and press the U key, or you can go to Mesh on the 3D editor header bar and go to UV unwrap, and you will get the same menu for UV mapping, and we want to unwrap. I'm going to click unwrap. And we can see over on the image editor on the right hand side here we've got that mesh, the area that we've selected, appears on top of our image here. Brilliant. So if we hop over into rendered mode we can see that we've got ourselves an iris, and if we go over to this image editor we can scale this in and we can scale it out. Or if we keep scaling it out we get a very funky eye going on now. I don't want that, so let's bring it back in. Almost there. As you can see, you can play with this to your heart's content. I actually quite like its low down here. It's got that extra ring going around it. So there's lots of options you can do to play with that. And we've got ourselves a pretty good looking eye. As always, let's go and render the final image as well, see how that's looking. There's a few extra steps to the eye. It's not glossy enough at the moment. So in a challenge in a few moments, there we go, that's an awesome looking eye, much better than that plain orange. So let's go ahead and add one final challenge to make this eye nice and complete. Okay, so your challenge, add a lens to the eye. So we're going to create a lens, and I suggest duplicating the iris and the pupil part of the eye mesh and separating it immediately into a separate object. Assign a glass shader to this new object and set the IOR to around 1.4, but do feel free to experiment with this. I found 1.4 works rather well. Recess the iris and pupil ever so slightly, otherwise the two meshes will be touching one another and it will look horrible. And another thing you could do is pull out the lens further from the eye. I suggest using proportional editing for this, and try to remember not to pull the actual lens fully from the eye, otherwise it'll look more like a contact lens rather than part of the eye itself. And then finally, set up a new camera zoomed into the rabbit's eye and share that render in the discussions. Pause the video now and give that a go. Okay guys, welcome back. Let's add a lens to our rabbit's eye. Right, so the eye is coming along lovely here. So let's add a lens to it. So we need to go back over to the 3D view, and I'm going to struggle for a bit of space here. Let's set this to solid mode. So I will want this front bit here selected as well. So I'm going to use circle select in order to do that. So that's the iris part and the pupil part selected. We can just confirm that it's either rendered or material or texture mode. That's all there. We can see what's going on. So back over to solid mode. Now I've done that, I'm going to duplicate that straight away and then separate it as a new object. So Shift and D will duplicate it, and I'm going to hit P immediately to separate it by selection. Excellent. So now if we don't have an outliner anymore, let's bring back our outliner. Okay, so now under the rabbit mesh, we've got eyes and eyes 001, and I'm going to call this lens. So we can carry on with it. Now the lens itself, we can assign a material to it straight away. So let's go and remove eyeball, iris and pupil from this particular lens, add a new material, and I'm going to call it lens. And down here, I'm going to set it to a glossy, no, we want glass shader just underneath. It's already IOR of 1.45, I'm going to lower that down to 1.4. And I'm going to leave the roughness 0, otherwise it will look bad. And this colour, I'm going to make sure it is pure white. It's not quite, but now it is. Excellent. So now we've done that, let's just render. Well, let's go into viewport shading rendered. Okay, that's not quite right at the moment, because the two meshes exist on top of one another, and we don't want that. So we'll need to lower the eyeball itself, or actually push out the lens. In fact, in this case, I'm going to do both. So let's go back over to the eyes themselves, switch back into solid mode, over into edit mode, and let's grab... I'm going to add a loop cut in first, and I'm going to turn texture back on. It's here. So I'm going to add a loop cut and butt it right up against here, which will generate an edge on top of an edge, but it will enable me to just move back the whole top bit here quite easily. So Control and R for loop cut here, and now the slide bit, I'm going to butt it up against this edge here. And now when we go into face select, we will see, let's go back to solid mode, that we've got these dots going around here, and that means that basically there's two edges on top of one another, and there's an infinitesimally small face along there. So let's go ahead and select all these top bits. So I'm going to move around here, and using circle select, I'm going to make that circle a little bit bigger, and I need to select a little bit more, going around here, being nice and slow with it so I get all of the bits I want. Excellent. And I need to move that backwards ever so slightly. So let's just move our eyeball around. Perfect. And I'm going to grab it and move it. I'm going to hit Z and then Z once more to move it in and out. And I'm literally going to move it back ever so slightly so it's inside our model. And I'm switching to wireframe mode. You can see a bit more detail of what's going on there. That looks good to me. In fact, that may be a little bit too much, not sure. Let's see how it works out. Let's go to our lens, and we're going to do a similar thing here. So let's hop into edit mode without wireframe on, so I can see what's going on. and I am literally going to select this center bit here, but not the extra bits. Just remove those with the middle mouse button. Now I've selected that, I can do a similar thing as I did before, grab and Z and Z, but I don't want this sharp cone coming out, so I'm going to stop doing that and turn on proportional editing down here and enable it, and let's grab and move that. Now at the moment that means that the proportional editing circle is far too large, so I'm just going to use the scroll wheel. There we go, so it's come back down. I do not want to move this base bit going around here. I don't want to move that away from our eye, otherwise it will look odd, and obviously I don't want to move that far either. So I want here to go Z and Z, so it's coming out in the right direction, and probably to about there. Excellent. So let's see how that's looking. Let's go over to render mode and have a look. That is looking much better. So there's a couple of final things to do here. We need to set up our camera. So I'm going to borrow another camera. I'm going to borrow the 35mm one, and it's hidden at the moment, so I won't be able to duplicate it whilst it's hidden. So let's unhide it and duplicate it. Excellent. I'm going to name that iCam so I know which one it is. Right, let's go round. Let's set the active object as that camera, and lock the camera to view the properties here. And let's now zoom in and round in here. That's probably a little bit too close. No, that will do. I'm happy with that. And let's just render the image and see what we've got so far. Okay, that is looking pretty good, if a little bit noisy. And of course the noise level here is simply the number of samples we've got. So let's go to our render settings here, and I'm going to up in sampling. I'm going to, oh, it's only at 10, that's why. So I'm going to up that to 100 for the moment. That might be a little high, but I really want to see what the detail is going to come out like. And further down here, I've just, when that was actually rendering there, I noticed the tile size. Once you get used to Blender, you'll just go, oh, that's a bit too big. So I'm going to lower that down. Since I'm on a CPU, I know that it works really well with 16 and 16. So let's render that once more, and hopefully this time we'll get a better impression of the actual quality, especially when the samples have gone up tenfold. So here we go, much less noise. We can see already in the reflections themselves. Oh, look at that, that's absolutely crazy towards the top here. In the rabbit's eye, because we've now put the lens on top, we're actually getting a reflection of the eye socket itself, and at the top here, that looks like a reflection of the rabbit's ear as well. So obviously when we're this close, it starts to highlight some possible problems like the skin tone of the rabbit. I may change that to be slightly less pink, I think, to make it a bit more natural. But we've got a really nice looking eye here, and obviously you can play about with the type of iris that you've gone for on your rabbit. I'm quite happy with this darker rabbit's eye here. After looking at reference material, that seems to be pretty accurate, and this is looking really nice. I'm going to stop the render there because I don't really need to see much more of it, and I just click the little cross at the top here, and I'm going to save that image because I'm really happy with that. So I'm going to save as image, and I'm going to pop here eye close up. There we go, and save that image. Excellent. How did you guys get on? I'd love to see how your eyes are coming along. It's really detailed now. It's really coming along really nicely. And we're going to start working with the rest of the scene very shortly. So please share it in the discussions, and I will see you guys in the next lecture.